Hey, everybody. Welcome to another midweek time for devotion and prayer. Thank you for being here. I noticed that I'm apologizing a lot, but some technical difficulties last week, and it made the time that I could. Well, it didn't start working. It was done. I was doing it, and then it didn't go. I don't know. But anyway, we had some technical difficulties last week. God willing, problem solved. But it is good to be here with you. I thank all of you for your faithfulness in being here and supporting this new arm of our ministry and supporting me in doing it. I also want to thank a lot of you prayer warriors who were probably contacted yesterday about Tanner. A lot of you know about Tanner and is joining the Air Force and that process. And I won't go into all the details here because his privacy and all that. But thank y'all for praying for my boy. He's going to be great. He's going to do fine, and things are going well. Just a little bit further to walk, and so we're going to walk it, and we're going to do well. I was even telling him today as we've been kind of going through this. I said, to be honest, the longer I live, the more I think things aren't always 100% good or bad. What matters is how you walk through something. It's not the thing that matters, it's how you walk as you go through the thing. So he's walking well, and I'm super proud of him. His mom is super proud of him. So anyhow, thank you all for praying for him, for my family. Been a busy couple of days. So good to sit still and be with you. And I'm going to be honest and say that when I think it can't get more crazy and unexpected things, got to stop happening at some point. Something new happens. And so we keep living in this world and we keep thinking about our place in it and our importance. Also, a good opportunity for me to thank you for supportant. I think that's what I just said, but supporting Ashley and I with our podcast. You guys are so great. Lots of you listening to that or stopping by and giving it a 5-star rating or something like that. Just encouraging. It really encourages me. I know it encourages Ashley, but if you guys are into the podcast world and you don't even know what I'm talking about, 12 weeks ago, Ashley and I agreed to start a podcast together and been doing it. It's gotten technologically slightly different with the ability and the equipment I've had access to, but she's always six. Well, now it's not as big of a thing, I guess, but back then she was on the other side of the room and all that. But Musings with Townsend and Preacher Man is what we called it, and we got a little logo. And so, anyhow, if you want to check that out, we're on Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. Those of you listening, we appreciate it. Those of you who might like it, give it a try. Just something we thought we could do, really, to try to structure. My goal was to give you 3 ways to interact with the Lord through your church during the week. So we got Sunday, we got Wednesday, and then that podcast is live every Friday. So trying to give you something throughout the week, and I hope that's been a blessing. Over the past couple of weeks, though, I've been looking at what the Bible says as we wonder, I believe, how to respond to what's going on in our world, how to listen and not receive accusation, how to hear someone's pain but not excuse someone's behaviors. It's just, I don't mind saying it, or this is my way. It's kind of crazy. It's just, I don't know how else to say it. It's just wild uh, how we treat one another sometimes, I guess. But anyhow, over the past couple of Wednesdays together, we've talked about paying attention to what we listen to, paying attention to what we look at. And I kind of mentioned a week ago, those of you who may have been here with me this week, I wanted to talk about what we say. And interesting, when I've thought through this over these weeks, this is the one that I know for a fact we have shared about this and looked at the Bible as to what it says about this on numerous occasions in the sanctuary downstairs. The importance that the Bible states about the words that come out of our mouth. And maybe no other biblical author has, I guess, as direct a thing to say as James in the book of James, where he talks about the power of the tongue, how it guides our lives, it guides us, and how it's almost like a paradox, because with the one tongue, we can both bless God and curse his creation. And that doesn't seem like that should be possible, and yet it is. And it's really a profound thing to realize the power that our words have, and then to recognize the responsibility that God gives us in paying attention to it and being mindful of it. And so I'd like to spend the minutes that we're going to spend together tonight looking at that and considering a few things about that when we think about not only being responsible for what we look at and knowing with all of these, with what we look at, what we hear, what we say, all of them can be positive or they can be negative. We can look at terribly awful things constantly, and that begins to help this be terrible and awful. Or we can listen to things that are discouraging and untrustworthy, and it helps make this discouraged and start to almost be untrustworthy on a regular basis. And then tonight, that we can use this as a tool to destroy or to build up, to help or to harm. And we need to own that responsibility and own the request that God has made, or the command, if you're more comfortable with that word, that we use our mouth and the words we say to bring healing, to bring blessing to people. And to do that, I want to look at this passage from the Proverbs, to pull the veil back a little, I guess. You know, it's Wednesday and our podcast goes live on Friday. So Friday at midnight, you podcast junkies, up at midnight, search us up and you'll find episode 12 at midnight. We record that on Wednesday and I upload it and make sure it's right and do all that. And then it's good to go on Friday. And so Ashley today, as we were talking, mentioned how Proverbs is such a good book of the Bible to go for teaching, for instruction, life instruction. And she is 100% concrete, right, dead on, because Solomon wrote the majority of them, but all of them are, that's what they are, wisdom literature. The reason behind them is to teach how we're supposed to live this life that God has called us to. And for us, on the other side of the cross of Jesus Christ, to know that this is the life he died for, that we would be this, that we would be faithful and full of integrity and righteous and walk with wisdom and push away foolishness and evil and stuff like that. And in this passage, I don't know if it's super. I try to find something that's kind of easy to look at, but I don't make it. In fact, this one came. Oh, how do I leave? Well, anyway, behind me somewhere is a logo in the picture. Sorry, I'm constantly sliding down in my chair. I don't know if you've noticed, but this one I noticed the number is kind of hard to read. This is Proverb 11:9. That looks like an 8, but it's 9. 11:9, and in it, Solomon writes and says, "With their words, the godless destroy their friends." This is hearkening to the idea of gossip. "But knowledge will rescue the righteous." So this is an image that we're being given to see that righteous people speak the truth. Righteous people tell things that are based in knowledge, wisdom. We tell the truth. We speak the truth. Godless mouths, which the paradox that James talks about is how it's odd that we can be the people of righteousness but use godless mouths. They destroy their friends. And when I start to mix up all of the things I feel like God has tried to encourage us during these times over the past couple of weeks, I see that godless words lead to someone listening to godless things, and they ultimately learn to see things with godless eyes. All of this connected, that what we see today is a result of godlessness. And yet the righteous are called to speak truth, to be rescued and to rescue others with knowledge. And here he's referring to the knowledge of God, the truth, the what is revealed to us in the Bible, what is revealed to us through the person of Christ, what is revealed to us daily in our hearts through the leadership of the Spirit. And yet, I think we're in a time period where we're almost afraid to exercise that gift, that power that we have to speak knowledge into a godless moment, to use righteous ears to hear people. I'm pretty sure I said this at the beginning. People are harmed today. People are hurt. Maybe physically, sadly, maybe emotionally, maybe both, maybe more. That needs to be heard. But that also needs truth spoken over it. And I can't help but recognize that today we have this highlighting of a problem where what's being said with the mouths of the righteous is not righteous. That people are sharing things that are hateful and harmful for no good purpose. Now, I'm not picking a side. Um, there are, each side's got her enemies, okay? But the church isn't called to try to figure out sides. The church is called to speak the good news of the gospel to all sides. I just am bothered by the fact that the church has within it members who want to speak hate because they feel like that's the right response for hate being spoken to them. Okay, so the reason I think what Solomon is saying here is that's a response to that. So someone that is disagreeing with me to the point of hatred, they're destroying friendship. They're destroying their friends in those words. But the righteousness of the church is that even in hearing that, we're called to speak knowledge and wisdom and the truth. And Christ is the truth. And so I think that matters because when people protest, when people, and you know, this isn't going to last forever. Eventually, the protesting will stop. Some changes will be made. I think, today companies are making decisions. Some of them, I guess, I can understand. I haven't been raised in a way to see my race in the same way as someone else has. And so I understand. I think I do. There are other things, other decisions that are being made that don't make any sense. And they're being made to placate. Let's, let's just call it what it is. So what I'm talking about, okay, I grew up watching Looney Tunes. I just did. I woke up. I had to be up by 6 o'clock so I could eat some breakfast, take a shower, and be at the bus stop by 6:30. Well, I chose as a young man. I mean, like fifth and sixth grade age. I woke up at 5:30, and the reason I woke up at 5:30 is because Looney Tunes on the channel TNT started at 5:30, and I watched cartoons for an hour or for 30 minutes before I got in the shower. I I saw Elmer Fudd shoot a double-barreled shotgun at Bugs Bunny a million times. I never once thought about using a gun to harm someone. Yet we live in a world today where you can't have Elmer Fudd with a gun. Okay, so let's listen to that. Let's hear that and say, okay, well, I guess. Are we also going to ignore music and art styles that promote a life of violence and mistreatment and abuse? Are we going to ignore that? That part is okay, but Elmer Fudd and his rifle, that's crossing the line. You see, when we abandon this knowledge that the righteous are called to uphold, we start seeing choices get made that they absolutely make, well, okay, they make very little sense, if any sense at all. It doesn't do me any good, though, to rage against the night for Elmer Fudd and his shotgun. Do you know why? Because I don't want to give anything away, but Elmer Fudd is a cartoon. I would rather take a stand against real problems. And so mocking someone for thinking that it's good that Elmer Fudd doesn't have his shotgun, it doesn't press the needle forward. Getting my hands dirty trying to help people, getting involved in my community, doing the things I don't want to break my arm, patting ELBC's back, but doing the things that this church is passionate about doing. That's what changes, and that's being dedicated to this knowledge. This, again, y'all don't have any idea how hard it is, but this word right here, knowledge. Who says what's true? God does. God establishes truth. And so when that's what rescues us, then that's what we should be listening to, looking at, and speaking over these things. Because it matters. It matters dramatically so. And then finally, if I can bring another one up, and this, I know you guys have heard this passage a lot, okay? I've brought this up a lot, and I don't think there's a problem with that because Jesus is the one who said it, and it matters. But Jesus said a good man, and I can take the word good man and use the word righteous because that that is an interchangeable, it's not the same exact, I mean, the words are obviously different, but in application, that is an interchangeable idea biblically. Good is righteousness, okay? So a righteous man, a good man, out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth that which is good. And an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth that which is evil. And then the key of this passage, for the abundance of the heart, from the abundance. I borrowed this from testifyinggod.org, and I think that might be a typo. From out of the abundance of his heart, his mouth speaks. Jesus is showing us that our mouth does one thing most of all, and it testifies to the condition of our heart. So what we say, even though we could be talking about any number of things, what we say tells on our heart. It tells the condition of our heart. And you and I both know, but the truth is, people are good at lying for a little while, but nobody lies long term. I really want to say that I know I do, and I want to encourage you. This is where we need to come back. We need to sort of slow the quickness by which we make a decision on something, or slow down the opinion that we form. You know, I mentioned on Sunday that the world is starving on hate. It's starving to death, but it's consuming hate. Well, I believe fully, and I read this recently in an article. I should be able to cite it, but I can't. It was an article that a psychologist had written in a journal, and they were talking about the effects of social media on the world, and the author said that having such constant access to social media and the experiences that we have from seeing things constantly, we have been um, sort of erased inside is our ability to have empathy. We no longer have empathy. We just have judgment. We just judge. We see something, we judge it. And I was reading that and I literally out loud said, absolutely. we we have to work at being empathetic now because we're so quick to see something and just think something. You know, we think about a certain person when we hear the police shot them. We think about a certain individual when they sit close to us. We think about people in church when we hear they're having trouble, or the preacher is preaching a sermon and the person over to my right is crying, and I think, oh, what are you doing? Why is this bothering you so much? You know, we don't have empathy anymore. We don't stop to give the benefit of doubt. We don't want to listen to what might be going on. We just want to look at what we choose to see and then say what we choose to say. Jesus says, you know what that is? That's telling where your heart is. I say this yet again because this hurts me. I want to be better, and I might be a good example for some people, but I'm not a good example for all people because I know there's better that I could do. I could be more understanding, sure. Does that mean that I've done something wrong? No, not necessarily. And so there's a lot of victimization and self, I don't know, whatting right now in the social media world. Mason is not on that train. I was about to say Mason ain't on that train. I don't want you to think I'm any dumber than I am. But no, that's not the solution, because on some level, to be honest, that's a form of pandering because it doesn't solve the problem. And the truth is, when people talk about certain lives mattering, or all lives mattering, or all that, I want to solve the problem that makes a person think they never did matter. I hope that makes sense. I want to solve a problem that begins in their home, or in my home, in their community, or in my community. I want to fix the core, and the cure to that, the fix to it, is Jesus Christ. To speak about him, I have to have a changed heart. I need the righteousness of Christ, something I cannot have on my own. And to know how much I am living in that righteousness, I can judge rightly by the words that come out of my mouth. And so this is why it matters to see what it is that we're saying and to keep watch over those words. Not Not only to keep watch over them because you need to make sure that you're saying the right thing, but to keep watch over them because they're telling on your heart. And so what I say is telling me where my heart is, if that helps. It's telling me what my heart is about when what comes out of. So in the moment when I say something that ought not be said, yeah, in that moment, my heart's in the wrong place. Is my heart long term in the wrong place? Well, that's what self-reflection is for. That's why I feel like God has been asking us to consider what we look at, what we listen to, and what we say. Self-reflect. But Jesus is saying, here's where the roots are. The fruit is coming out of your mouth and out of your hands, we might say, because he talks about bringing forth goodness. But guys, we got to pay attention to what we say. Do we speak kindness to one another? Do we speak kindness to our neighbor? Do we draw the net even closer and say that we speak kindness to ourselves? I know, because I know me. I know the human condition. I know that there's some of you on the other side of this camera right here that are speaking hatred over yourself. There's a lot of pain in the world. There's a lot of harm in the world. There are people who do things or accept things in their life because they think they deserve it, and they speak things and they listen to things and they see things that may or may not be true, may or may not be right. But church, I tell you truly, it matters that we recapture the power of the tongue to speak goodness and kindness, not just to one another within church walls, but to do so to those that have harmed us. And harm comes without skin color. Harm comes without upbringing. It comes in the day to day. It comes inside this place, this church that I'm sitting in. We need to recapture the power we have to speak the good, to speak the righteous knowledge, even in the middle of difficulty. Because doing the opposite destroys friends, and you and I have not only received that destruction, but because we are sinful, you and I have been party to the destruction. There's no innocence around the table. We might want to cherry pick situations where we've been innocent, but we're not innocent, and that's going to lead me, as I'm going to bring this to a close. That's going to lead me right back to Sunday, which, by the way, it was Wednesday by the time I remembered, but the sermon did get uploaded to YouTube. Any of you who are like, I really want to watch that on YouTube, it's uploaded. Now, the quality is not good. Working on that, and some super mega generosity for some church members have massively upgraded our video ability, and I'm getting the cables to make it all work. So some great things coming there. God is blessing us in that, in our ability to do all of this. But on Sunday, we talked about the very well-known passage in 2nd Chronicles about God hearing our prayer and healing our land. It's time for us to do the stuff that God has called us to do. And he has called us to speak with a righteous heart, transformed by Jesus Christ. He has called us to speak from the abundance of that. And in speaking that gives people something to hear that is good. And in hearing others speak this, we can listen to good. And then we can see the results of this, and all of this comes together, and that's the restoration that God promised our land. It starts with us taking action, prayerfully seeking God, and then taking action as we repent of our own wrongdoing, because like I said, there's no innocence at the table. We have spoken wrong and destroyed friends. We have. Whether it's been 20 minutes since you have or 20 years, it doesn't matter. We all have. We have to bring that to Christ in redemption for repentance' sake. And then in restoration, speak the good that he puts in our heart. That's how all of this changes. I want you to be encouraged in that, because, even in our own small town, we'll have, I think there's a march happening, I think, this weekend. That's great. I mean, this is America. I want people to be allowed to do that. At the same time, we have the Supreme Court making judgment on something that I'm not overly smart, but I don't think that's how it works. And yet they've done it. And what do we do? If you're asking what we do, let me tell you what the answer is. We live our faith out loud. We live publicly our faith, and that is part and parcel in what we say to people, about ourselves. I encourage you, be responsible for your tongue. Be mindful. Watch over what you say. Watch over the words that come out of your mouth. Help me watch over the words that come out of mine. This changes the world. And we have that gift, that power, that responsibility through the blood of Jesus Christ to change our world, to reach into our community. Will it take a long time to get a result? Well, I have between now and the time he calls me home. Is that long? I don't know. But let's make use of that time uh, because it matters and we can change things through that. So I hope God will use that to encourage you. We're going to pray together, and I'm going to use this same one because it's the same one from last week, and I think it matters because as much as it seems to be difficult in our current climates of the world, we are called to be hopeful. And I'm not only hopeful that better and good comes out of all of what's been going on, and that's not just counting protests and all that. I'm counting coronavirus. I'm counting all the things that are going on today. I'm counting what happened with my little family. I'm counting everything. I'm called to have hope. I'm called to know that God works it out. And so let's be reminded of that tonight, of how good he is and how good it is to let him hold us accountable for what we say. Would you pray with me as we come to a close tonight? Father, Lord God, we are so thankful for this day that you have given us and this week and this time. It is a difficult time. And there are some who would say that the days are growing more and more difficult, and maybe so. But you are a God who has given us perfect love, and perfect love drives out fear. So, in all the things that we're facing today, in all of the ways that we are being called to live a life of righteousness and faithfulness, I pray that you would give us strength to have access to that perfect love and to, in our daily lives, in our minds, in all of the situations we're a part of, help us drive out fear. Lord, I recognize that I can't even understand the difficulty of what some are feeling today and what some are going through, but you are still you, even in the midst of all of this. So, Lord, I ask you to give us accountability and also encouragement as we seek to be very mindful and responsible of the things that we say. Now, I'm just as guilty of anybody of speaking and maybe being overcome with passion when I say things or share an opinion. Keep all of that in its right place, in its right order. But Lord, be blessed by the words that come out of our mouth. And in that blessing, let others around us who are within hearing distance, let them be blessed. Not because we speak of our own accord, not because we speak to be glorified ourselves, but because you deserve glory and honor. And we desire that our words do exactly that, bring you glory and bring you honor. So tonight, as we have this chance to be together and you bless this technology and you make things work that I don't understand how they work, Lord, I ask you to be the worker of peace in our hearts in the midst of all of this unpeacefulness. And help us see beauty. Good overcomes evil, and there is good all around us. And we are tempted by the things we are surrounded by and the technologies that we have access to. We are tempted to see only the absence of peace, but there is goodness. Help us not only see it, help us listen to it, and Lord, help us to speak about it with every word. Speaking goodness when we rise out from our beds and when we walk about in our day. Lord, let us talk about you and the things that you're doing and the ways in which you're working, that others around us might be blessed by hearing the good testimonies of your glory and your awesomeness. I thank you for loving us, and I thank you for being with us in all things. I thank you for the ways in which you make yourself known in the small things and in the big things and in all the things in between. I am mindful right now, Lord, for those that you've let me be aware of that have health issues or impending things that they need to deal with, Lord, I pray that your strength is what they have access to above and beyond all other things. That you not only give them courage and faith, but you give doctors and nurses rest and access to knowledge, that their recall to handle situations is just profound, and that you do it as quick as it can be done. But Lord, you make us patient in the quickness. I thank you for being God and that we are not. I thank you for seeing the big picture and for giving us responsibility in our own little part of that picture. I pray we would take hold of that responsibility and work in it and with it, all for your glory. Jesus, may you be glorified through this church, through this congregation, the ministry you called us to, but may you be glorified more in our daily lives in the way that we live out our faith, speaking good, righteous things. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Thank you all, as always, for being here tonight. I pray God bless you. I hope that you haven't forgotten that our challenge this week was to find somebody not in our household to show love to be kind to. I think if you do that, you'll find it's actually quite easy to find somebody, and that when you do the one, you choose to just do one more, all of a sudden, we are taking hold of the power God has given us to shape the future. I hope you're doing that. I hope you're being blessed in it. I hope you know how much I love you. May God keep you, and may God direct you in all good things between now and the time I see you next. Don't forget, it's Father's Day Sunday. Don't let that sneak up on you. Tell Dad you love him. Tell Dad you love him. God bless and keep you. Wash your hands. Be safe. Love somebody. And remember that I love you. Until I see you again, bye-bye, everyone.